Hi everybody, Dhaman Mehta here, and thank you for once again joining me on my journey as I go through my favorites list on fanfiction.net. I know it's been a while, I'm sorry. I was like one video short of recording it last week, and then I missed it, so I couldn't record, and now I'm here, and now it's gonna probably be another week before I get another video out. I was really hoping I'd be able to get two out, or to record two back to back, but didn't work out. Shit sucks. So yeah, let's just dive in. Start these stories. Starting with The Platinum Crown by, I'm not even going to try and pronounce this guy's name, but it's like Cap'n, you know what, I am going to try. Chryssalid, I think. Alright. This one is a My Little Pony fanfic. That's a sequel to The Best Night Ever, which was a fic I had read that was previously on my list, which stayed on my list, which was a Groundhog Day style fic with Prince Blue Blood during the Grand Galloping Gala of My Little Pony. This continues that story with basically Blue Blood and Rarity being our main characters, and it dives into more of the socialite aspect of Canterlot, and basically is all about, like, you know, Rarity and Blue Blood, and as a pair in a relationship, navigating through hidden conspiracies of the nobles and stuff. I did not read this story previously. I just put it on my list because it was a sequel to a story that I enjoyed, and so I just popped it on there. I think there's been cases like that before. I'm not sure, but there probably will be cases like that after. Going into it now, I see that it still has the quality, like the writing style and the quality is the same as the previous story, but the whole intrigue and socialite aspect stuff is something I don't care about. I don't really like all these shadow plots and stuff like that. I don't know, it's just not my thing. I'm not interested in it. I find it to be a good story, just not the category, not for me, in the not for me category. You know, I do recommend to give it a look. It's not complete, but it is a very, very long tale, and there's a lot here. So if you want to see some like backdoor dealing and like socialite shenanigans and stuff like that, give it a look. But it's not going to stay on my list. Alright, next is Fate Night Sky by Beasts Lairs Fraggle. God, that's such a weird name. Like the parentheses, the apostrophes, and the S, whatever. Anyway, so this is a Fate-Stay Night crossover with magical girl Nanoha. And it takes place, so basically after the Book of Darkness incident in Nanoha, the book itself like flies away and ends up in Shiro's body right at the end of the Fuyuki fire. And then a few years later, after Emiya Karatsugu dies, she ends up summoning the Vulcan Ritter, and they start prepping him to fix the book while the T-Sab starts getting interested in Fuyuki. This is a story that never gets out of its opening act. You know, it's still everybody building. We see Shiro and the others living together and reaching the second year of high school, with a couple hints of other factions starting to make plays for Fuyuki, with like some T-Sab agents looking for the book, some Magi finding out about some of the familiars from the T-Sab people. Honestly, the thing that's actually here, and the only thing that's really worth looking at, is like the training fluff and the small character interaction pieces between the Vulcan Ritter and Shiro. There is an interesting character change that comes up in the last chapter that the person wrote, but since they stopped writing, the story never continued. It just all feels wasted, and since there's nothing really that's a must-read or something that's like super amazing to look at here, you can skip this without worry, and it's going to fall off my list. Alright, number 3 is The Wizard Ashikabhi by Plums, and this is a Harry Potter crossover with Sekirei, where Harry, after all the shit with canon and like trying to get like all his stuff stolen from him by an evil, like, Weasley family and stuff like that. Just takes all his shit and leaves the country, and then ends up in Japan. And this is a classic tale of an overpowered protagonist being thrown into another setting and just fixing everything. You know, not to say that I'm against the concept. I like OP, out-of-context heroes and stuff like that. But the storytelling here is just not good enough to keep it from being boring. Again, a lot of that again comes from the fact that this story doesn't really focus on comedy. It focuses more on it tries to make it a drama story, which, you know, when you have an overpowered protagonist, drama is not really a thing that is going to exist that much. It's just not engaging, and it becomes dull and repetitive pretty quickly as Harry basically uses his magic to curb stomp everything. Not terrible or bad by any means. It's just dull. Also, the story was never finished, so it's incomplete. It's nothing bad, but again, it's nothing I'd suggest you hunt down and read. If you come across it, yeah, you'd be fine, but I'm not going to keep this on my list. Right. Next is In Flight Gaiden, Playing with Tropes by Satire Swift. And this is a spin-off of a Fate Stay Night and Sekirei crossover called In Flight, which was on my list previously. I think it might still be on my list. You know, let's check. Let me see if it's still on my list or not. I remember reading it, and it was one of the big, like, Sekirei crossovers that a lot of people know. Yes, it is still on my list. Okay. But anyway, so this one, it takes place in the middle of that story and then spins off by introducing a new character with an alternate version of Shiro who basically is powered by TV tropes. It's pretty fun with a large enough diversion from the original story that makes it worth reading and, you know, worth existing. And the short chapter lengths that it has makes the pace of it feel a lot faster than the original, just because it's short, so things keep moving and nothing feels like unneeded. However, there's not while I did enjoy it while I was reading it, I don't see a need to ever come back to this story. It's basically good enough that you'll enjoy it while you do it, but you'll probably forget it a little bit after you read it. And you should, if you have not, and obviously if you have not read In Flight, do not read this. Like, read In Flight for at least halfway, because otherwise you'll be completely lost. Because there's no, like, introductions or anything or, like, setting up. It's just dive in. It's fine. If you liked In Flight, I would say to give this a look, but it's not going to stay on my list. Alright, number 4, or whatever this number is Youthful Ninja from the Future by Mystic777. And this is a super short tale where Naruto invents time travel solely to pull a prank on Kakashi that he later thanks Naruto for. It's basically, it's a little absurd in the lengths that Naruto goes and the idea, but mostly it's just harmless, forgettable nonsense that you'll forget after you read, and it's just not really anything interesting or even particularly funny. It just kind of is. It's not going to stay on my list. Right, number 6 is The Free Will of Kyon by Darksworn. And here we have Haruhi Suzumiya fic, where Kyon ends up meeting God, like Jesus God, like that God. And basically they're like, God's like, oh no, so I have a test for you and you gotta help me out here. And that ends up bringing back old enemy of Kyon's, of Ryoko Asakura. And it's a little there, like, so basically the idea and the concept behind the story, and that gets touted by the starting point, has merit, and it's one of the few stories I remember reading that has Kyon standing up to Haruhi, but the content isn't there. The story only has 3 chapters, which really just gets to, like, the first big conflict point, before it ends. And while I think it would have been interesting if the author had continued it, there's just nothing here aside from inciting incident. And there's like, even in this small amount, there's nothing here that's like must read. It's a cool idea that might have been good if it had gotten a chance to bloom, but right now it's just nothing that can stand on its own, and it's gonna fall off my list. Alright, and the last one for this video is Terrorism and Anarchy by Varian N. And this goes back to the well of time travel with Final Fantasy VII, and this one involves Cloud just waking up one day in the middle of training back when he was a Shinra recruit. We basically get no time in the future. It starts in the past, and we don't really care about why or what was happening in the future. It's implied that like it takes place after canon, after the game ended, after the movie, I think, after Advent Children and stuff like that. But the future doesn't really matter. It's just he's in the past now and he's doing shit. So this story has a very laid-back feel to it and flow, and it flows at a very leisurely pace, while with the humor being really, honestly, rather dry and more from bits of character interaction as opposed to like large or wacky situations. Like, this is not pie-in-the-face humor. This is more like just like little bits of characters being like, oh, they're acting funny not out of character, but just like the interaction between these two is what generates some humor. Like I like did enjoy it. It's like, it's not to say this is like super smart person humor or like cerebral or anything. It's just a less obvious style of comedy because it's not about big jokes or gags all the time, but more about like personalities and stuff like that. I had a lot of fun rereading this. Though it's incomplete, Cloud's various dealings with the Shinra investigation squad, trying to figure him out and stuff, is super entertaining. Like dealing with some characters like Zack, Genesis, Sephiroth, and like even they're all interesting. Rufus, and it's just, if you like Final Fantasy VII, I would definitely recommend you give this a look. I had a lot of fun with this, and this is the only one of the 7 that's going to be staying on my list. So there we go. This video that took forever to fucking get out. Probably a month, I think. So status time, fanfiction status time. I have now read 689 stories. 336 of them have stayed on my list. So there we go. I am really trying to get these out in a faster way. I don't want this to be the pace that I'm doing it, because if that's the case, I'm going to be doing this for another 4 years. Hopefully I'll be able to finish this in the next 2. It's just really frustrating when like the next set of stories, I'm like halfway through enough for a video, but they're all like 150k plus words, so it's like really long and frustrating. And like the next one that I want to read is I actually am just not interested in, but we'll see. Maybe it'll surprise me. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Links to stories are in the description down below. Links and descriptions of these stories are in the description of the video, so feel free to give it a look. And I will see you in the next video. Take care and have a nice day.